Hello, my name is Jose. This is my oral presentation for software engineering class for fall 2021. This the chosen topic being the future of software engineering in the next 5 to 50 years. So, brief introduction. Most everybody's aware, software is all around us. It's very apparent, especially as a college student, that we rely on it to get even some of the most basic tasks on a day-to-day basis done, whether it's something from checking our phones with emails, important updates from campus or about assignments, as well as once we actually need to get to campus using either some navigation system or features on your car that rely on the software as well. Even in life, it just seems like wherever there's ability to put in software, we've found a way to help enable that so that way we can utilize it to our advantage, such as Apple Watches, um, certain appliances now have software so that way it facilitates being able to do tasks or multitask, so to speak. So, with these new ways that software is being developed to be encompassed in life, as well as taking care of some of our mundane tasks, they also obviously take care of very critical things such as software used for computers keep in touch with our websites, as well as some of the other things that we just mentioned. So, with that into consideration, it's crucial, we need to consider software engineering and its role in the future. And just right there is one of the quotes that I've read is if you haven't been made aware of successes, you're often condemned to not repeat them. So that's a play on the common phrase that if you don't know your history, you're condemned to repeat it. But it also is on the other side of that we need to understand our successes so that way we can learn from them as well and continue to succeed in the future. So going forward, this is the breakdown of the next 5, 10, and 50 years. So when it comes to the design process, even with this pandemic, we've already seen a great shift from on-site coding and software development that takes place at a central location to having the ability to remotely access terminals, so that way you can continue to work on that from the comfort of wherever you choose. And that has seemed to have a great impact on not just productivity, but the amount of people that are capable of working, especially at times like they are today. And a lot to be learned from that will more than likely be applied moving forward. Especially, and this lends itself well to agile methods because of the fact that, in the word, it's agile. So we're making sure that we're adapting to the changes that are coming up on the horizon. As far as compositions of the teams, in the next 5 years, it's difficult to see it change from what it is currently. So that's reliant on software engineers that actually execute code, do testing, basically the way it is right now, where they are the lead experts on that field. And even though there's good people that are programmers, it takes a lot more to make sure that deadlines are met and client expectations are also in consideration. As well as project managers are usually experienced engineers, and while they don't usually, or they are expected to know how to code, they are essentially experienced enough to manage other members of their team, ensuring they make deadlines. So they meet impossible where regular, and when it's possible to keep up with that. Bugs handled in person. Clients will obviously are provided increments that they can identify bugs for engineers to actually fix, and engineers might notice some on their own with their own internal testing. So impact on society for the next 5 years. So 5 years is a relatively short time. So considering, even though a lot can change, when it comes specifically to software engineering, it's going to be remained relatively unchanged just due to the time frame. But as far as trends that we've been able to identify right now, obviously, as mentioning, the ability of remote software engineering. So that can be taken steps further as opposed to just not anywhere where you have a computer, but possibly anywhere that has that is given in some way access to the servers that you can work on software. So that, as lended with increases of Internet of Things and cloud servers, would lend heavily into that. So, as far as in the next 10 years, so the process, again, still heavily reliant on agile methods, but being able to use automation for code writing, such as testing and modification, would be more of a standard place in there. That's always the goal with engineering, is to see what kind of processes we might be losing time on that are maybe not as efficient, and automation can definitely take a hold of that and make that easier. As far as composition, these changes with the automation can allow more at that time frame, so that way development of engineers through more experienced team members could get information when needed, and there's just greater facilitation of communication there and development. Again, and as automation comes into play, project managers are not necessarily just expected to handle team members, but also or be able to ensure those deadlines, all the responsibilities they're required to, but also these automation aspects that are being introduced. So clients still provided with this automation as well, clients can have the potential to be provided a greater ability to communicate bugs, but still engineers will be responsible solely for addressing them. Again, maybe some minor modifications from automation. In terms of the impact, so 10 years is a lot of time, and given the amount of work that would be done on not just software in general, but on the process of developing software, would result in a mass release of software with significant advances in all aspects of study, medical, transportation, financial, and then software engineering permitting the ability with these enhancements to handle more clients and provide services to smaller clients. As it seems right now, typically, mom and pop shops aren't working out how they can get software engineering to design them their own app or something like that. But the fact that as you refine a process, it makes it more available to those who might not have the kinds of means on a wider scale. So with all the software, that leads to a significant amount of data being generated, which can be used to identify global issues as well, and hopefully address some of them. And again, as more software is implemented, as I mentioned in these fields, you have to consider the effect it would have on careers and what they're expected to have. So as we already mentioned, the project managers needing to be able to handle automation aspects, the software being introduced depending on the field, would result in careers where they have to understand how the software works and what to be cautious of. So the big trends coming out of the next 10 years would be obviously handling the data that comes out, so the big data, as well as possibly using automation to deal with that to help further identify some issues for addressing. Now we go to 50 years. So this way down the road, ultimately the goal is to find something that is easily applicable and a kind of standard among software engineering. And that's where utilization of a waterfall-like method could be implemented. So it might not be the true method that our typical engineers do, or at least architectural engineers, where they're able to lay it all out and then just kind of go to work. But something that is relatively as easy as that, as well defined as that, so that way there's a lot less ambiguity in how to get to a final product that's efficient and to keep it within the scheduled timeline. So something that could come out of that is the automation of client intake without having to necessarily solely rely on person-to-person interaction to get all these things. We can now have forms that are sent out or able to obtain all that information that, again, provides this more intense and accurate plan for designers that also it accommodates for the fact that things will change, are likely to change, and is able to be flagged as things to consider and possibly even best facilitate an interaction when it does, because ultimately you always have to interact with the client from face to face. So making sure that that gets taken care of. As far as the team composition, all this seems to be getting into the fact that, again, project managers will have more responsibility, but also be able to be aided by these technologies. So with that, that free time, able to put more focus on developing talent and also getting others to be at the same level of understanding. Some other ways where the composition, again, it seems like it would always be in teams, but as ways of aiding the process, automation, allowing things like spoken to word or spoken word to code translation. So if you want a process kind of done, you can ask what it wants done and have a layout provided to you. As far as handling bugs, this also provides an area where clients can rather have only kind of be an act bypassing by just saying, here's what they expect something to happen or how to do it. They can actually be participate in the solution by kind of a click and play method where they are able to suggest what is going on there. So as far as the impact on society and the world, obviously 50 years go by, a lot of things have changed. All the data going out at this point, providing clear images on changes that need to be made or problems that need to be addressed in the world, especially with climate change, with an emphasis on how making sure the data is actually handled properly. And as with anything as well, as times change, education is reflected in that. And so now with more software, it could be a greater focus for even just lower levels of education or earlier in the school being taught about these and how to handle them. Major trends to be considered would definitely be artificial intelligence and quantum computing in order to handle that. So in conclusion, the future of software is promising, and thus there's a great responsibility for software engineering to adapt and improve to accommodate. Ways to do that is by incorporating trending technology, design methods, improving on existing practices, and taking inspiration from the society and global issues as well. So not just clients. And while roles of software engineers likely will change, they'll still remain crucial in implementing aspects of software design. And references.